KTVO, Kirksville and Ottumwa.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs.
And I'm Barbara Walters, and this is 2020.
From ABC News, around the world and into your home, the stories that touch your life. With Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters, this is 2020. Tonight,
Killed me.
the curse of a strange disease, behavior that seems insulting, belligerent, bizarre. What's the explanation? Can anything be done for them? John Stossel helps get the word out. They're not crazy. They're suffering from Tourette. How do you get kids off drugs? Daytop Village knows. They've been doing it for nearly 30 years.
Stop looking at your suckers. You need to take a hard look at it.
The approach? Create a real sense of family. Let it all out, but always have a heart.
Jan, I know you're having a very difficult time here at Daytop. I know you are.
Helping addicts and transforming lives. Bob Brown shows that tough love is the Daytop solution. Plus, the real cost of America's favorite dish. Clever ads help make chicken #1.
What the industry doesn't advertise is a hidden human cost.
Today, workers aren't just down on the farm. They're stuck on the line, and it's relentless.
There's too many accidents, and the lines are going too fast.
Constant injuries, crippling pain. 2020 looks inside Purdue Incorporated.
Some of your employees say you treat the chickens better than the employees who work for you.
Tom Jarrell reports. Chicken at any price. Those stories tonight, February 16th, 1990.
And what is the price of chicken? Well, consider this. 30 years ago, poultry cost 42 cents a pound. The worker got about 3 of those cents. Today, it averages over $1 a pound. The worker only gets about 5 of those cents. And it never occurs to us what the workers put up with, what they suffer through to get that chicken onto our table.
That's true. Because tonight we learned from Tom Jarrell that they do suffer, that they're caught in the middle. I mean, what shopper wants to pay more for food? On the other hand, what company wants to trim profit? What you will see in Tom's report reflects conditions throughout the industry. We are focused on one company, that of Frank Perdue. Frank Perdue is a household name in many parts of the country. But his workers, they're a faceless, nameless army. This is their story.
This is a side of the fast food business you don't see in commercials. Along the back roads of eastern North Carolina, trucks arrive all night at a desolate, out-of-the-way plant. From the outside, there's no indication that thousands of people work here around the clock to satisfy America's enormous hunger for one thing: chicken. Last year, Americans consumed chicken in record quantities. 67 pounds a person, 5.5 billion birds a year. No one's been more successful at creating this appetite than the super salesman who stars in his own TV commercials, Frank Perdue. What he doesn't advertise is a hidden human cost. High profits carved out of a mostly black labor force, doing the dirty work, which extracts a human toll in getting these birds from here, where they're fattened, to your kitchen table. Working by moonlight, teams of live catchers begin their day in the birdhouses, toiling in air thick with dust and lung-searing ammonia, to gather up the unsuspecting crop. After this bizarre harvest, the birds are trucked off to the slaughterhouse. There, modern, fast-moving machinery and human hands compete on the processing line, cleaning, butchering, and packaging the birds. The pay, $5.65 an hour.
A woman goes in there and stands on her feet for 8.5 to 9 hours a day in chicken fat and ice and water for hours processing chickens. And then at the end of the day, she's not able to cook. She's not able to comb her children's hair. That's no kind of compensation.
Sarah Fields Davis runs a local women's support group and is trying to mobilize poultry workers to improve working conditions inside Purdue's plants in North Carolina. Most of the workers here are the children of sharecroppers, many of them single mothers with little education. What they have to offer Frank Perdue, often all they have, is a strong pair of hands. Last year, the Women's Center sponsored clinics where outside doctors examine the workers' hands and wrists for signs of repetitive motion injuries, particularly carpal tunnel syndrome. Carpal tunnel is caused by overworked tendons that press on the main nerve in the hand. It's painful, debilitating, and often requires surgery.
One of the problems with doing this operation is occasionally that branch is injured and they can end up with some numbness in a finger.
It involves cutting into the wrist to relieve the pressure on the nerve. Even afterwards, some workers say routine tasks are difficult.
When I brush my teeth, I don't have grip in my hand. I can't hold a glass of water or tea long.
This hand is hurt every day. Not just some day. It hurt every day. And I had most time to keep this hand up like this because it'd be soft. It's hurt. Keep it up like this. This one hurt. And it'd be hurting all down my arm.
Lily Watson worked on the Purdue processing line for 13 years. She's had 3 operations on her hands. Now on disability, Mrs. Watson says it's even hard to care for her granddaughter, Keisha.
So I can't even comb her hair.
I couldn't turn the ignition in my car using my right hand. I have to turn my ignition by using both hands most of the time.
Not enough strength in the wrist?
Not enough strength in my wrist.
Donna Bazemore, a single mother of 3, lasted on the line for less than 3 years. She says a hand injury requiring surgery forced her to leave too.
And I just couldn't take it any longer. I worked on that line for 8 hours, through the pain because I needed a job.
Donna is now an organizer with the Women's Center, trying to educate other workers. The Purdue company says Bazemore was an unreliable employee who was fired, a charge she denies.
It's not a good feeling to know that you have worked for a company, and now that same company that you have worked for has crippled you.
Poultry companies seldom let reporters pass the barbed wire fences. But Frank Purdue made an exception. He agreed to an interview and allowed 2020 a rare look inside his Lewiston plant. It's an incredible sight. Over 2,800 workers here processing upwards of 425,000 chickens a day. They cut, they slice, they grab, they tug as the poultry passes. Even Purdue concedes the work is grueling. It's a highly competitive industry, and speed counts for everything. Workers here who handled 56 chickens a minute 10 years ago now find themselves on lines that run up to 91 birds a minute. The company is non-union, and Frank Purdue wants to keep it that way. Besides above minimum wages, he offers medical benefits and a pension, $7 a month for each year of service. Most of the jobs on the processing lines require the same repetitive motion over and over again. And as a result, state labor officials have accused Purdue of tolerating working conditions here that can lead to crippling hand and arm disorders.
We found one position where no employee had been there more than 2 weeks ever. That tells you a lot when you have that kind of turnover rate.
The most serious charge in the state report, that the Purdue company willfully failed to keep factual injury records to cover up the seriousness of the problem.
When you went to the company nurse to complain that you were injured and that your hands were hurting, did they make a full, complete, detailed report?
No.
What did they do?
She give you some pain pills, Tylenol, other Advils, and send you back to work.
Back to work.
Yes.
Is Purdue keeping accurate medical records? Well, they've not been keeping accurate records. They are to keep accurate records, and again, that's why we issued a willful in this instance.
In contesting the state decision, the company admits clerical errors, but insists that less than 2% of its workforce actually suffers from repetitive motion injuries. However, last year, a Purdue manager estimated it's normal for 60% of the workers to visit the nurse every day, complaining of aching hands.
I don't think there's anything like 60%.
60%.
Because we checked it. We checked the previous 6 months. It just simply wasn't a fact.
Company officials proudly point to safer, modernized workstations on the line and to new, sharper implements to ease the pressure on the workers' hands. And for those with serious hand injuries, light-duty assignments. But it's still a risky business.
Did you see any problems with safety, people being injured?
Plenty.
Grace Valentine worked on the line for 9 years.
What kind?
People with hurt hands, scissors, rubbing blisters and knots on the fingers. Girls complaining about the muscles in their arms and in their hands swelling up on them. They would take them off the line for a brief period of time and put them right back. 2020
found dangerous accidents have occurred on the processing line, too. Courtney Lewis was mangled by machinery his first day on the job.
You have to grab the bird and lift up. When I went to get the bird, my thumb was inside the shackle, and it was hard to take the bird off.
With almost no training, Lewis was working alone at this task, grabbing stray chickens the machine fails to dump into a chilling tank. There was no emergency stop button nearby.
And when I tried to get over, and the shackle was steady moving, and see the line keeps moving, and I couldn't take my thumb out, and it just pulled it right on off.
The boy was trained by two different people, and he'd been on the job about an hour and a half, I think, when this accident occurred, and it was tragic. I could not feel more terrible about it.
Lewis says not only was his thumb torn off by the shackle, but the company nurse threw it away. By the time the thumb was recovered by doctors, he says it was too late to reattach it.
She had threw my thumb in the trash.
Fields Davis has investigated a number of serious accidents at Purdue.
Tell me about the woman whose breast was caught in machinery.
She was working on a scrubber. It's a machine that cleans the gizzard, and it goes around and around, and her breast was caught in that. Of course, they said it was her fault.
How badly was she hurt?
She was hurt really bad.
There's too many accidents, and the lines are going too fast. That's how people get hurt.
When you got on the fast line, you couldn't keep up. It was impossible.
What would happen if you needed to leave the line, if you wanted to take a break?
Well, if nobody didn't relieve you, you had to stay there.
Women have urinated on themselves on the line. They have developed severe kidney and bladder infections, urinary tract infections, from holding their urine so long.
Did you ever get trapped there when you really needed to leave?
Many times.
Frank Purdue suspects overzealous supervisors for abuses on the line and denies his plants are unsafe or inhumane.
If a foreman is not treating people properly, and I know about it, that foreman's not going to be around because we're not going to put up with that. You know how many complaints I get when I sell this many chickens?
In his commercials, Purdue challenges customers to find fault with his chickens. And when we visited the plant, he challenged 2020 to talk with the current employees. He calls them associates.
So don't just sit there. Come on, let me have it.
During a lunch break, with company managers standing by behind us, the associates did.
The lines are too fast, and then the knives are dull, and you putting out your best, and they don't see you doing nothing.
I've been diagnosed as having tendonitis in my right wrist. Off and on, it's very painful.
You can't go to them and say, my hand hurts. You have to go to the doctor and get a doctor excuse just to get off the line.
My whole body was aching, and I went to the nurse about 2 or 3 times, and then she just gave me a couple of pills and sent me back on the line.
The nurse on duty admitted she does give over-the-counter pain remedies like Advil as part of the company therapy program. She also gives them vitamin pills.
We use vitamin E and a vitamin B. They would get that once in the morning with ibuprofen.
For more serious injuries, the nurse says she supplies hand splints, and those cases are always referred to a qualified doctor. But to the workers, he's suspect too.
The company doctor is in with the company. He's not going to tell you anything concerning your hand until it's completely damaged.
There are no sick days, no pay for the first 7 days they're out ill.
They try to treat it like machines, they're treating like human beings.
Some of your employees say you treat the chickens better than the employees who work for you.
Well, that's just not a fact. If we're going to produce great chickens, we first have to treat the associates well so that they will be happy workers, happy associates.
It doesn't sound like they're too happy.
Well, it's a tough job. I can't represent it as being an easy job because it isn't an easy job. It's a tough job.
When I went to Purdue, I had 2 good hands. Well, nothing wrong with my hands. I was able to work and use my hands. Then after I got carpal tunnel syndrome, they treat me just like I'm a worn-out pair of shoes.
Purdue doesn't care anything about us. Do you know that when he has stripped all of us of all of our human resources, he will be looking for another place and some more workers? And the only person that you can go to then is God, because you don't have nothing left.
Mrs. Watson says her religion gave her comfort over the years. Now she says it hurts her hands too much to clap. Last year, her oldest daughter began work at Purdue. And Fields Davis worries about the next generation of strong North Carolina hands.
I don't see a future for these little girls. I really hate to see them. The only thing that I can see is that we continue to educate the parents so that these children stay in school, get an education so that they don't have to go into Purdue.
Tom, this is, even though we've centered on Frank Purdue, this is an industry-wide problem, isn't it?
Barbara, it certainly is. In fact, other poultry companies have been cited, just as the Purdue company has, for injuries and employee violations.
The solution, I guess, would be that you make less profit and take better care of your workers. But why aren't they unionized?
The unions traditionally have not been very strong, especially in the rural South. The poultry industry has been fighting unionization, and the workers, quite frankly, are afraid if they try to organize, they'll be fired.
Then the industry had just better take better care of their people.
Seems so, yes.
Well, this is news to a lot of us. Thanks, Tom.
Next, from Bob Brown, helping kids beat drugs the old-fashioned way. No to coddling and excuses, yes to love and respect. And later, this behavior.
Help! My underwear's on fire.
Uncontrollable cursing, gestures, and mannerisms. John Stossel shows that it's part of a rare syndrome, suffering from Tourette.
2020. Brought to you by Nissan. Building cars for people who want more than just a means of getting from here to there. Nissan, built for the human race.
Motor Trend's Import Car of the Year is a car with extraordinary performance, inspired styling, a car designed to satisfy the most demanding driving enthusiast. In other words, Motor Trend's Import Car of the Year is just another Nissan.
That's me, Tommy Lasorda, before I lost 30 pounds in 3 months with the Ultra Slim Fast plan. Now, that was last June, and the big news is I haven't gained an ounce back. The plan is easy. I had a delicious shake for breakfast, one for lunch, and then a sensible dinner. I feel great, and I'm never going to look like this again. Hey, if I can do it, you can do it.
Ultra Slim Fast. Give us a week. We'll take off the weight.
Maytags are built to last longer and need fewer repairs, which may explain why in an independent survey, when asked to name the washer they wanted most, more Americans said Maytag than any other brand. And when asked to name the dryer they wanted most, more Americans said Maytag again, which makes all of us at Maytag very happy. Well, almost all of us. It's lonely at the top. Newton. Maytag, the dependability people.
Citicorp, America's first global financial services corporation, has the power and the resources to help you with all your financial needs. Our bank, Citibank, is the most widely used by American corporations and individuals. As Citicorp and Citibank, we serve over 27 million customers in 90 countries. In fact, Citicorp, known worldwide as the financial leader, is ready to do whatever it takes to help you succeed. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
Sunday. Joe Kennedy, the tycoon with an appetite for women.
You don't want, you don't get.
Rose Kennedy, the matriarch devoted to her faith.
God forgive you. I never shall.
John F. Kennedy, the playboy destined for greatness.
You can tell all your grandchildren that you once went to bed with me.
Kathleen Kennedy, the socialite cast out for forbidden love.
You will be disowned.
TV Guide says it packs power, passion, and melodrama. The Kennedys of Massachusetts, starting Sunday.
The dust is still settling from yesterday's drug summit, and we're going to take a look at that later in the hour. But when the drug problem really hits home is when it hits your home. Over time, 2020 has looked at many treatment programs. Some tout new approaches, some have fancy price tags. Tonight, Bob Brown shows us the oldest drug treatment program in the country. Daytop Village sticks to basics. It's highly successful, often copied, and this is the man behind it.
He has been likened to Father Flanagan, the legendary founder of Boys Town, who started his youth rehabilitation programs early in this century. This tough 65-year-old priest is one of the world's recognized experts in rehabilitating drug addicts. And after 30 years on the front lines of that war, he doesn't like the way it's fought with public policies.
Do you have any hope at all that politicians can contribute to the solution?
No, it's not going to come from that corner. The posturing and theater and game playing and rhetoric, they just play games with human lives. And I don't think America can indulge itself in that luxury any longer. Drugs on the streets, getting arrested.
So Monsignor William O'Brien spends much of his time enlisting other people to fight the drug war his way. On this day, he came to visit the board chairman of Merrill Lynch, the Halliburton Company, and Solomon Brothers to talk about raising tens of millions of dollars for the residential drug treatment program that's the keystone of his success, Daytop Village.
Our target is to get door openers in order to take on something as ambitious as this.
If there's such a thing as a United Nations of drug treatment programs, then Daytop qualifies. Workers in 55 countries have been trained under Daytop's auspices. This is a center in Italy. The reach of Daytop also extends to Scandinavia and the Orient. What motivated Monsignor O'Brien to start all this was a famous case in New York City in 1957 involving the murder of a fireman's son by a street gang. The mother of one of the convicted gang members went to pray at St. Patrick's Cathedral, where O'Brien was then a priest on duty.
She wanted me to say some prayers. I said, come on, let's go down and look at him. I saw this little baby-faced kid sitting there, terrified. I said, where have we gotten ourselves? I interviewed the kids, all the kids. It was all drugs. And so I went shopping around, and no one knew what to do.
So O'Brien made drug rehabilitation his mission, and the central structure of his work was based on the family, the missing ingredient in the lives of many drug abusers. He founded Daytop residential centers, homes to which drug abusers committed themselves and were immediately required to begin accepting the kind of responsibilities that come with a family.
Excuse me. First of all, everybody has to take
It starts with hair and appearance and with household chores like cooking and cleaning. And because the other residents here have also been drug abusers, they know the excuses already, and they won't accept them.
If you want to attack the bottom line of the problem, it's not really drugs at all. It's a fallout from the family. It's hard to describe to that world out there, that type of love in Daytop. It's a very beautiful but very tough love. You know, it's not a baby. It's not a sympathetic love. It's very, very difficult. It's a steep hill.
What are you gonna lie right now too, right? And then you called me a phony, and I want you to account why you called me a phony.
Part of that tough family atmosphere involves encounter sessions that can seem brutally honest and even unreasonably explosive.
Personally, I think you're dead weight and you're phony with a lot of people.
How do you look at me like you could just step all over me when I was...
Residents hold nothing back from each other.
I'm open to that, but I didn't leave it there on
Malik
purpose.
Green has been at Daytop since May of '89. Part of his job is to tell newer arrivals what to do. Debbie DeMattia doesn't like the way he's been telling her.
And you go and sit down. Oh, I don't need this immature stuff. How
But you know something? I don't need the baby attitude. I did go and talk to your girl. I want to make a run on what y'all was doing at the same time. I'm the only one that had a bad attitude. I said, go ahead, Debbie, 'cause I didn't want to deal with your bullshit.
With your own stuff. Start looking at your stuff, because you need to take a hard look at it.
The point behind these confrontations, with counselors present, is not only to push problems out into the open, it's also to teach residents that, like a family, they have to solve conflicts among themselves instead of escaping to the street.
If I was out there in the street, these feelings would have led me to get high or to rob someone, because I wouldn't know how to deal with them. But in here, we have an opportunity to release our feelings by you telling them how they made you feel, how hurt they made you feel. And this gives us a way to control them. I'm tired of people rolling up in my face, telling me what the hell to do. I'm sick and tired of that shit, man. I'm tired of people like you running me around, man. I'm tired of
It's tough to look at kids sitting across from each other with their muscles in their necks taut, screaming at each other, complaining to each other about sometimes very small things.
But it's not small, though. I don't know which is more lethal. You being nice to me because you don't want to hurt my feelings, or they're being honest with me, brutally honest, because they love me so much They want me to get that back together, that life of mine.
Daytop spends between $12,000 and $15,000 a year to support each resident. It takes, on average, 2 years to graduate. And under the strict regimen here, 40% of the residents never make it all the way through. One of the problems that crack has created is that users become addicted so quickly that they may believe on the other end that they can also kick the habit quickly. If they're planning to quit Daytop treatment, residents often go to a bench in the center to think it out. That's where we found 17-year-old Michael Wheely, a former crack user, during our first visit to this Daytop center in Millbrook, New York, just before Christmas.
I was just thinking about being home for the holidays. I didn't care. At the moment, I didn't care about anything else except being home. I was putting
Just when Daytop's hold seems to weaken, families often step in. Michael's sister, Susan Wheely, was notified by Daytop that Michael had left by train the day after we filmed him on the bench. And she rushed to Grand Central Terminal to make sure she'd be there to confront him when he got off, to see that he didn't fool himself about the time it takes to recover.
I just didn't understand. I said, why are you here? You should be back there. I says, you're not recovered yet. You may think you are. You may think you know everything that you have to do, but you're not recovered yet.
I said, no, there's no way I'm going back. I said, I'm going to go back after the holiday. I'm going to go into another program.
But Susan refused to leave him, insisting until Michael finally relented that he returned to Daytop.
I helped him make up his mind, yeah, but a lot had to do with himself, because without that step of him wanting to go back, it would have never have happened.
Daytop doesn't make it easy on people who try to come and go. Michael wound up sitting on another bench, a place you go to think about what you've done and how it affected everyone else. If he can finally make it through, the odds will turn decidedly in his favor. A Johns Hopkins study shows that more than 90% of Daytop's graduates stay off drugs and out of crime.
The feelings come from what you're learning about yourself. And what you're learning is your past.
And the longer they're here, the more residents discover that they are expected to hide virtually nothing from this substitute family. And if they try, they're called on to explain it.
Jan has never left. Jan has never been on the chair.
John Finnemore, a Daytop graduate, is now a counselor. And he is telling 20-year-old Jan Rosinski that other members of the group have been worried about Rosinski's behavior and won't accept his attempts to dodge the issue.
The love is here, and the concern. People had brought you into this meeting looking to help you, not to hurt you. Maybe you need to tell the family how you've been feeling lately.
I'm sick of pushing myself. I'm sick of feeling frustrated and miserable. A lot of times it doesn't seem like anything's changing. I just feel real confused.
Jan, I know you're having a very difficult time here at Daytop. I know you are. But what you need to do is take one day at a time. The purpose?
These discussions often are the forums that bring out specific problems that are the reasons residents must stay so long just to begin to conquer them.
A lot of things I just can't forget, even if I try to. I remember getting raped. I remember getting beaten up. I remember beating my parents up.
We ask the parents to come into family groups before we even take the youngster in, because the youngster is playing their guilt and their feelings like a piano. And so
the parents?
Yeah. So we say to the parents, this is what you do. You look at them and say, Johnny, I'm your mother. I love you. But motherhood is towards living. You're dying in front of my eyes. I can't be part of that. Do you understand, John? Call Daytop. Get treatment.
What will you do if Jan slips?
This is it. We will not take any more of this abuse or see him killing himself the way he is.
Daytop arranges counseling sessions with parents that can be just as open and painful as the sessions residents hold among themselves. Because of his drug and behavior problems, Jan Rosinski's parents eventually wound up throwing him out of the family home. But he had manipulated them for years and didn't believe at first that they really wouldn't allow him back.
Jan, do you remember when it was Daddy's birthday and I was making him a surprise party? At that time, I said to you, if you leave this time, Jan, you will never be able to come back again.
I didn't think you meant it. I didn't see you as strong enough to really do that. And then when I came back up to New York, and I called you from the train station, I remember a perfect one. how I was and how I felt.
And you asked, what should I do? I don't know what you should do. Do whatever you have to do.
I didn't think it would ever get to that point.
Daytop's counseling style has become so established and widespread that much of what Monsignor O'Brien does now is introduce the system to people who can raise the money it needs to continue and expand. That means the centers often have visitors who literally drop in after finding they can't say no to O'Brien. On this day, it was New York Yankee owner George Steinbrenner, who, by bringing up his own perjury conviction in a campaign fundraising scandal, gave the residents more than the usual corporate pep talk.
And I got a felony conviction, which most of you have probably never had. It's a tough deal. So I'm not a guy that's coming up here full of nothing but success to talk to you. I'm like one of you because I failed. I've been embarrassed.
By bringing businessmen to Daytop facilities and converting them to the cause, Monsignor O'Brien manages to raise about a fifth of Daytop's $24 million annual budget from the private sector. One of the things people respond to about Daytop is the fact that it is not and doesn't pretend to be a perfect world. Jan Brzezinski, who we saw being counseled with his parents, discovered weeks later that he had tested positive for the AIDS virus.
And what's going on right now, having a hard time.
But as the new year began, he still felt he would complete his stay at Daytop.
Right now, I'm not sick. I can still function. If I gave up, I know I'd be useless. I don't know. It's my commitment here is really strong. I have a lot of friends here. I won't want to leave them. I know what's out there for me. And it's not pretty, and I don't want any part of it anymore.
Despite that knowledge, Jan Brzezinski disappeared from a Daytop field trip on January 30th. When he tried to return later in the week, Daytop refused to readmit him to the residential center and referred him instead to an outreach center. In fact, there are no neat endings in Daytop's story because the spiral of drug abuse continues to worsen. What there is, for Monsignor O'Brien, is a personal goal to raise money and do more, and to realize that even that won't be enough.
Would you favor legalization as a solution?
Absolutely not. Are you going to get on an airplane after this is legalized? Or are you going to go to a doctor? Are you going to place your life in the hands of people that can play with drugs with impunity? I love you, you know it. Are you going to look at your own kids and say, this is the world I'm going to give you? It comes down to the basic problem that faces America, which is we have a built-in intolerance to complexity. We want a push-button answer to all our problems. We cannot deal with complexity, and with drug abuse, we're dealing with a complex problem.
Boy, that's true. And Daytop, which does such good work, has taught others like Phoenix House and private places like Sea-Doo and Rocky Mountain Academy. But there must be more. This is so little.
Right. They especially need places in the inner city where people can go and become accepted immediately when they go there. And it's not that Daytop invented all of the concepts that it uses, but what it did was assemble them in one location and provide a model of treatment that these centers you mentioned and many others have based their treatment on.
And to give kids self-worth, and most people think it can be done in a month. This is a 2-year program, and that's important to know.
Yeah, and 2 years really is almost a minimum for them to turn a kid around.
Well, let's hope that there'll be more that follows this example and money in order to enable them to have more, whether it's insurance money or government or whatever. Thanks, Bob.
Next, would you befriend someone who often has uncontrollable outbursts? Most people don't, which is one more reason why life is misery for some victims of Tourette syndrome. John Stossel reports right after this.
Now for your Maalox Moments breakthrough news. A big splash of cherry and a burst of mint. New cherry cream and mint cream extra strength Maalox Plus. Now the strongest antacid has terrific new tastes. Strong relief for all your Maalox Moments.
Sometimes I imagine my wimpy sedan is a Nissan Stanza, the new one with the big engine. And I take it shopping in Monte Carlo. I My kids are yelling. I think I will.
For all the packages you send, the urgent ones, the big ones, the small ones, you can depend on the U.S. Postal Service to get them there, when you want them, where you want them.
We deliver, it's the reason you trust us. You know that we're gonna come down with your postal service. We deliver for you. We deliver for you.
That's me, Christina Ferrari, after I had my baby. Since then, I lost 25 pounds in 3 months with the Ultra Slim Fast plan. It was easy. Ultra Slim Fast is really delicious and satisfying. I'd have a thick chocolate shake for breakfast, another for lunch, then a great dinner. I love Ultra Slim Fast. It gave me back my figure, and I feel great. Now the only baby fat in this family is on the baby.
Ultra Slim Fast. Give us a week. We'll take off the weight.
Nothing eliminates odors and freshens carpets like Carpet Fresh Rug and Room Deodorizer. And now Carpet Fresh comes in potpourri with Valex for tough pet odors and potpourri to freshen the room. Carpet Fresh, now in potpourri.
His name is Steve. If you met him on the street, you'd probably avoid him. But John Stossel shows you he's really very friendly. A great guy, suffering from Tourette. When 2020 continues.
Sunday,
He's never really been away from home before.
Elvis prepares for his first concert.
I don't know. Everything's changing so fast. I have so much confidence in you, Elvis Presley.
Elvis, after America's Funniest Home Videos Sunday.
Congratulations to Ryan Couch of Green City, our Heartland High School Athlete of the Week. Join me Fridays at 5:30 and meet another outstanding athlete on News for the Heartland.
Either you win or you win. What's this?
Oh, that's the big deal with the Missouri Lottery. Yeah, now they've got 2 scratch-off games going at the same time, so you can pick your game or do what I do, play both. And with this new promotion, you just can't lose.
Oh, you can't lose? Right.
Really, it's true. When you buy 5 connected tickets like this and don't win cash, you win 3 more tickets free. You can't lose.
Beat you to the ticket.
The Missouri Lottery's either you win or you win promotion. Play today.
I feel fortunate to work at KTVO because of the equipment we have here. We have the same type of equipment here as the National Weather Service has to make their forecast, and that enables me to make a forecast specifically tuned to the heartland. People sometimes do tend to think that I'm responsible for the kind of weather we have. I have to take some ribbing sometimes, and it is fun, but it's also a big responsibility.
KTVO, Kirksville and Ottumwa.
In the past few years, people have become much more accepting about disabilities, particularly physical handicaps. But will people accept you if they think that you're off the wall or rude and offensive in public? Often people who suffer from Tourette syndrome have just that problem. And we're pleased tonight, through John Stossel's report, to help get their story out. Now, a warning, some of these people frequently use offensive language. We've bleeped some words, but remember they can't help themselves.
Hey, you, me, the other guy. Yo! I'm on a chicken team.
What's going on with the man in the blue sweater? The one who seems to be talking to himself.
Help! My underwear's on fire.
His underwear is on fire? Is he crazy or drunk? Well, Steve Bachner is not crazy, and he's certainly not drunk. He has Tourette syndrome. It's not a mental illness. It's a physical disorder of the brain that causes involuntary movements, tics. It also causes people to say things they don't want to say. Growing up here in Brookline, Massachusetts was a living hell for Steve. Not only did strangers react badly, his own parents did.
Your family would say, stop it, and you'd say, I can't?
They'd say, what are you making noise for? And I'd say, I can't help it. And I'd get dragged into another room and then beaten with a broomstick for a while.
He lives on what's left of a small inheritance. and spends much of his day on the street. He says he cannot work because of the way people react to his symptoms, and he worries what will happen when the money runs out. Every situation is a challenge for Steve, even going to a coffee shop.
Kills me.
Often people sitting near him will get up and leave. Steve's symptoms are unusually severe. There are hundreds of thousands of other Tourette sufferers who have milder forms of the disease. What causes it? The short answer is, we don't know. It was first observed by a French doctor, Georges de la Tourette, in 1885. Today, doctors theorize that Touretters seem to have an extra sensitivity to some of their own brain chemicals. It's that sensitivity that causes the tics. The disease is genetic. It runs in families.
Goose, help me.
Even within families, however, the symptoms are very different. Steve talks a lot about chickens and underpants, but at any given time, anything can come out.
Oy vey.
He feels compelled to make fun of people's names.
Just punch, chicken, punch. Glossy stuff.
And when you heard my name, Stossel, you said Stossel
I was coming out with these Stossel Flossel, the glossy Stossies, about a half hour before you showed up.
I would think you were making fun of me.
Exactly. That's what most people would think. Either that or I was just, under the influence of something.
He can't stop throwing punches. Punches that don't quite hit the person.
I mean, when you do this,
Six.
you almost hit me. You don't hit me. I appreciate that. But you can't resist the urge to...
Yeah.
People who don't know about Tourette's can get scared, can be suspicious, can react defensively, and I think a huge job of sort of public education is needed.
Neurologist and author Oliver Sacks has observed this kind of unpredictable behavior for years. He told us about a group of Tourette patients listening to a bald man giving an after-dinner speech.
Someone at the table shouted, "Baldy." Someone else shouted, "Get some hair." And there were instantly all sorts of comments like this, which are sort of half funny, half shocking, altogether inappropriate.
You like these people more than other people?
Well, I've never met anyone with Tourette's I dislike. Things are very upfront. They're very direct. This is, I think this can be very engaging in a way. This isn't for a moment to understate the tragic amount of suffering which they may have, and sometimes the amount of disability they may have, and often the terrible discrimination against them.
It's the profanity that brings the most discrimination. Coprolalia, it's called. 15 to 20% of Touretters suffer from it.
Like, you I assume, don't want to say that.
Right.
You can feel it coming on, you just can't stop it?
Right. It's a feeling of having an itch on one's back you can't quite reach, that tension building. Then there's the symptom and then the feeling of, it's out.
What makes it more difficult is that the disease compels them to say the absolutely worst thing at the worst time. So quiet places like libraries, theaters, or stores bring out the most swearing.
I mean, Polish Prince of Penis. Niggers, if I see a black person, certain racial slurs will come out. Nickel, dime, quarter, $2.
He says nickels to try to keep from saying this.
Niggers, dime, nickels, dimes, quarters. That doesn't imply I'm a racist. Living with Tourette and the hell I've been through, the last thing in the world I would do is turn to discriminate against another individual.
Someone with a milder case of Tourette is Bruce Oxman. He's a successful financial analyst in Potomac, Maryland. Still, he spent years thinking he was crazy.
I had no self-confidence in my teenage years because of all the names people would call me and stare at me. And, you're very self-conscious at that age anyway. Because there were new situations, new surroundings, and I was very uncomfortable and I would tick more.
His father had no idea what his problem was.
Well, we would tell him to stop it. I mean, after all, it was disruptive. And to hear these noises and see these jerking movements and so on, especially sitting at dinner, it was uncomfortable.
When Bruce was 19, the diagnosis was made. Finally, everyone knew Bruce wasn't crazy. There was a name for what he had, Tourette.
We cried together. I apologized to him, and we became even closer. But my guilt continues on. I'll probably feel guilty the rest of my life for the way I treated him.
It was the same for these children. Before they were diagnosed, their parents treated them harshly.
He was punished, spanked, for quite a few things that I wasn't aware that he couldn't stop.
You know, kept reminding him, you know, Tommy, don't do that, stop it, you know, you're doing it again. And we actually got him to stop for a period of a day. And what I discovered was that at night when I went to check him, he was ticking in his sleep. He was just going absolutely wild.
Worked so hard to hold it in.
He held it in, and it just had to come out. You cannot hold it back. And it has to come out somehow, somewhere. And that's what it did. It came out in his sleep.
Often it's other children who are the most cruel.
Sometimes people try to make fun of you by imitating you. Like, you know, if you were like this, they would go back at you or something.
Do you ever get sick of people telling you to stop it all the time?
You sort of like get annoyed with them and stuff, and you want to like punch them and hit them really hard. So you like try to stop it, but it's hard to.
Bobby had trouble making friends because of his Tourette. One day, a new kid moved onto the block.
And I was so happy that he found a friend. And I could see the glow on his face. And I even said to my husband, wow, this is great. This is really going to be it.
Until she told the boy's father about her son's Tourette.
And the father says, well, I don't want it to wear off on my child. And I says, well, I don't think it will, but I went home, and that kid has never been back since.
The parents won't.
This is what I'm assuming, that they said, don't go and play anymore. And Bobby took it pretty hard.
The good news is that now there are plenty of people with Tourette who these kids can look up to. Orrin Palmer, for example. He became a doctor. He ran the gauntlet of medical school with Tourette.
Hey, what are you?
Each day, he had to take special care to explain his tics to patients and doctors. Despite Tourette, he's been able to lead a pretty normal life. He's gotten married. Still, when he encounters strangers, it's a different story.
If I'm on a bus or a subway, people will make funny looks at me. They will comment. They will get up from their seat and walk to the other side of the bus. They will laugh. They will poke fun. And they will harass.
Harass and
Harass. What's the matter with you, man? What are you, crazy? What, do you got epilepsy?
Can you blame them?
No, I can't. That's why it's crucial to explain it to people.
There are now drugs that control some of the symptoms. Dr. Palmer takes small doses of Haldol, a powerful drug used to treat severely mentally ill patients. He could take more Haldol and reduce his symptoms even more.
But if you do that, there's a certain tendency to damp down the whole person. And they may not want that. They may feel that their vitality, their imagination, and their will, and that their very identity is being damped down.
There can also be severe side effects. Steve Bachner won't take the drugs at all because they make him sick, and also because he wants to remain alert. Unlike many Touretters who avoid the public, Steve likes to mix with people. He won't give in to his disease. He certainly wasn't shy with me.
Ask away, Harry.
You keep coming out with new stuff.
Yeah, fossil stuff.
Yeah, real fossil stuff.
I was a little nervous about getting punched, but you get used to it.
I'm going to knock you out. You're getting closer. You may knock me out. But how do you know you're not going to take your hands off the wheel when you almost hit me?
Because, well, I know my symptoms.
Have you ever had an accident?
Nope. Nope. Not even a close one. Hey, you!
At a shopping mall, we watched to see how people would react as Steve browsed.
Woo!
Immediately, there were stares.
Hey! Oh, hey, hey! Watch out.
Some people thought Steve was
smoking cocaine.
He's mentally disturbed or emotionally disturbed in a severe way.
People don't approach me for the most part. Their attitude is there by the grace of God. I don't have to deal with that, so I'll walk away.
When you saw him, you were a little upset at his swearing in front of the kids.
I just wanted to get the kids away from, him
saying the nasty language and everything. And I didn't want them to be subjected to that.
What hurts most are the people that just walk away, the people that just turn away and walk away, because in a situation where someone has approached me and said, what's your problem, or can you cool it, I will explain it. And at least there's a chance for an interaction that may prove positive. But where someone just turns away, I feel that was a friendship that could have been. And that's by far the most painful.
It wasn't easy for Steve or any of the Tourette patients who appeared on this broadcast to bare their souls on national television, to openly display their socially inappropriate behavior. They did it in hopes that someday Tourette will be accepted for what it is, a physical, not a mental disorder, so that when these kids grow up, they won't be laughed at or shunned by their peers. For Stephen Bachner, that's still a dream.
I feel in a sense that I need to be a pioneer. I guess I feel that's really my mission, is to reach out to people and to let them know that it's okay to know us. It's okay to let us do what we do best, and it's okay to love us. There's nothing wrong with that.
John, I noticed while you were talking to Steve, there'd be long periods where he had no symptoms. How long can a person go without being seized by this?
Often with Steve and some other Touretters, when they're actively doing something like talking or playing a sport, they won't tick. That their attention will be focused on what they're doing enough to distract them. And then when they stop, it builds up and they start to tick again.
Do it frequently.
Do it frequently,
yeah. Right. What about now, in the story, we saw only men who were afflicted with this. Are women afflicted by
some
Tourette?
women, but mostly men.
It is.
And this is true with a lot of these genetic diseases, autism, stuttering, dyslexia, and no one's certain why, but it's 3 to 1 boys, 4 to 1 boys. They don't know why.
The analog of that is that anorexia and bulimia are predominantly women, you know?
That's true. There you go. I was going to say you women have it easier than we men.
Maybe it balances out. I don't know. Thank you, John.
We just have to be more understanding
yes.
of everybody. Well, the drug war, next. Was it a kinder, gentler George Bush who showed up at the summit?
One, two, three. Okay, I done it, but I ain't guilty. No use running from it, 'cause I ain't guilty.
Say hello to new Hostess Light snack cakes with 0 cholesterol. Hostess Lights are 97% fat-free, 97% guilt-free.
No, I ain't guilty.
Not with Hostess Lights.
No, I ain't guilty.
97% guilt-free.
There's a lot of talk about oat bran these days. Some people say it can be very good for you. Others aren't sure how good. And then there are those who still want to study the situation. Look, I've been eating Common Sense oat bran for a while. Tastes great. Common Sense has nearly twice as much oat bran as oatmeal. And until somebody gives me one good reason to stop eating this stuff, pass the milk.
It's about time for some common sense.
The Nissan I-1 is the, it was in those commercials. They drove it to South America, the Pathfinder. We'd load up the Pathfinder and, whoops, better get 4-door, and go skiing every weekend. Or the Paris-Dakar Rally. We could be the first family to race from Paris to Africa. Quit our jobs, pull the kids out of school. Maybe not.
Glory. Gene Shalit calls it electrifying. Here they come! 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Supporting Actor. Glory. Rated R. Now playing at a theater near you. Formula 409 spray cleaner puts greasy dirt on the run before you start to wipe.
409 puts grease on the run.
I want to do what I want to do.
My dad, nothing.
Corky's busting loose. Life goes on. Sunday.
Yesterday's drug summit is being hailed as the start of a new era in the war on drugs. Some observers feel that what's most significant is a seeming change in President Bush's attitude toward the cocaine-producing nations. We see that in this week's Drug War Status Report.
When the president talked about helping South America in his drug speech last September, the emphasis was almost entirely on strong-arm tactics.
Our strategy
allocates more than $250 million for next year in military and law enforcement assistance for the 3 Andean nations of Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru.
At yesterday's summit, the tone was different. Speaking in Colombia, the president added new priorities.
Covers the major issues of economic assistance, demand reduction, expanded law enforcement, and interdiction activities.
The producing nations are gratified that the signed accord seems to mark a change by the Bush administration away from the military to an economic and social approach.
The presidents of the countries attending this meeting have begun to understand the true scope of this problem and the way to confront it also.
There will be another drug summit in 6 months, time enough to measure progress.
Thank you, Hugh. And more on the drug war tonight on Nightline, where Forrest Sawyer is sitting in for Ted Koppel. Forrest?
Barbara, our topic tonight is a nation's tragedy. We already know what the drug trade has done to the United States. Tonight, the human misery that drug trafficking has brought to Colombia, where the war on drugs has become a war for survival. Hugh?
That's Nightline after your local news. And that's 2020 for tonight. We thank you for joining us.
And as always, we're in touch, so you be in touch. I'm Barbara Walters.
And I'm Hugh Downs.
And for everyone here at 2020, have a good weekend. Good night.
2020. Brought to you by the makers of Ultra Slim Fast, a natural, healthy way to lose weight fast.
That's me, Courtney Gibbs, Miss USA 1988. People think Miss USA never puts on extra weight. Well, sometimes I do. I just lost 5 pounds in 1 week with Ultra Slim Fast. The plan is easy. I have a thick, delicious shake for breakfast, 1 for lunch, and then a sensible dinner. When people say, Courtney, you don't look like you need Ultra Slim Fast, I say, that's exactly why I use it.
Ultra Slim Fast. Give us a week. We'll take off the weight.
In 5 seconds, tell us about the four-wheel disc brakes on your Eagle Premier Limited.
Okay, I'm driving. A tree falls on the road. I'm getting closer and closer and closer.
Sir, you're going to have to stop.
My point exactly.
Give me one good reason why you chose the Eagle Premier Limited.
Four-wheel disc brakes, leather-trimmed interior, air conditioning, power everything.
I only asked for one.
Take your pick.
Top male gymnasts compete in the World Gymnastics Championships. Plus, ice dancing's finest display their artistry. All on ABC's Wide World of Sports, Saturday.
Michigan, Ohio State, the showdown.
Wait a minute, this is basketball.
Whatever the sport, when these two meet, it's war.
On ABC's College Basketball, Sunday.
Female drug gangs. If you still think they're the weaker sex, think again. Watch Peter Jennings on ABC's World News Tonight, Monday.
If you wish a transcript of this program, send $4 to 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 10007. This is 2020.
This has been a presentation of ABC News, where more Americans get their news than from any other source.
This is ABC.